Yeah, and if there's one thing that Hustlers are missing right now, it is a hero for Yuma. Yuma has a very obvious hero pool, I think, and they will swap it up. So Mr. Jeans has played Viper several times on this team already, so they are saying that we know the mid matchup, we might as well send it. Kunkka versus Viper isn't really bad for Kunkka. It becomes a question of wave clear, and if Kunkka's like able to approach the wave, then he's absolutely fine in that lane. So I think swapping it up is interesting. We also could see the Timber going mid. That is an old counter versus Kunkka in the mid lane where Timber saw the Whirling Death spams you out. It's really hard, and once you hit level 6, then you just start getting dove over and over. I also feel like they're not going to do that because they have Monster, so he probably wants to play the more traditional offlane, but going for Timbersaw is an interesting route to take, especially with how scarcely we've been seeing the hero, because again, both of his best spells got nerfed a little bit. His early game is just that little bit much weaker. You have to play in a much different way. You have to be actually in the trees. You have to get a lot of those cuts down. Otherwise, Rolling Death and Timber Chain really don't do as much anymore.
Yeah, and in the side lanes where there are trees aplenty, that often gets sort of balanced out, but uh, well, middle lane not quite as abundant tree-wise in that matchup, so probably going to see Monster just sort of take that to the off lane. In the meanwhile, it is all in on the carry band. Sven and Medusa taken away by NoPing. D2 Hustlers, meanwhile, starting with the Naga Siren. If they're still looking for more in that similar vein, the PL could be taken away, but the Morphling will be the ban instead, which, fair enough. It's a hero we have seen Angel and honestly Yuma on pretty frequently as well, so neither team going to have the Morphling at their disposal here.
Yeah, and with the picks we saw yesterday, do we see teams going for the troll versus sniper matchup? Do we see teams going for possibly the here, which hero is that? Whenever you have Angel, I think you also are looking at a hero like the Terrorblade, but there's also a gyrocopter. Or no, there isn't a gyrocopter. I was gonna say there's no way gyrocopter is still in the pool. He was the first ban of the game. But there are a lot of good heroes. And when you ban out Morphling and Naga, I think that they are covering. If NoPing aren't going to take the Terrorblade, I can definitely see Yuma going for it. At the same time, I think NoPing are going to want a carry that's going to be able to shut out this Timbersaw a little bit more in lane than some other heroes. The most classic hero in that regard is something like the Luna that we've seen Angel, again, do many times. It's another efficiency hero and something that he's very adept at playing. But that's where they do have to make the call. If you end up picking the Luna here, then you're going to get TB'd. So I think that's where NoPing are definitely weighing out what their opponents are going to play because they have to slam something. They banned out the best straight up carries. They could have gone for either the Sven or the Medusa, but they banned that out themselves, I think, for that exact reason. They're trying to get the leg up in the carry matchup here, regardless of what D2 Hustlers pick. Okay.
All right.
Or they say this is going to be a tiny carry.
Yeah, that has to really be the call there with the Lion picked up. So, well, ET, the Lion was a hero you were talking about earlier on for Sladen, way back in that second phase. Technically, it appears that that will be the case, just maybe not the circumstances we had originally envisioned, but we have seen some success from that position one Tiny. It hasn't really popped up all that frequently, but we'll see what Angel can do with it. And honestly, he was one of the players way back in the day, back the last time around, when position one Tiny was kind of in there, who was able to find some success with it with his previous teams. So it's not something that he has no experience with.
Yeah, and I'm just giggling over here. You get Yuma Magnus
Mm,
playing versus Angel Tiny. We get the two clashy Blink initiators if they want to, safe laners going against each other. This is gonna be a fun game. You get some really wild picks out. But yeah, Angel, like you said, he was playing it back when everybody was playing it because Arteezy did it in one stream, and they're like, oh, okay, let's try it out. Then everybody flopped because it takes a lot of gold to get that version of Carry Tiny going. But it is an interesting decision to go for because, as you can see, Monster is still on that Viper. It will be Mr. Jeans taking the Timbers onto the mid lane to counter out this Dark Mago Kunkka. So, again, the lane, it would have been 50-50, maybe even slightly worse for the Viper, so they swap it up. But that's where I wonder if Mr. Jeans is going to feel the drawbacks of his spells, especially if he goes for the typical buildup where Whirling Death doesn't do that much if you're not cutting trees. So I wonder what we're going to be seeing from him, as well as now you have to lane Tiny versus Viper, where if you get a few too many levels, then suddenly Angel can't walk up to the creep waves anymore. I think this is honestly one of the most even drafts I've seen out of the tournament thus far, though. Both teams have very different strategies and a lot of things going for each other.
Yeah, then a lot of sort of exciting stuff, as you mentioned, the Tiny and the Mag in those position 1 roles. And personally, I don't think I've ever seen Mr. Jeans play the Timbersaw mid, either in a pro match or just sort of watching him play pubs either, which, granted, I am not watching every single game Mr. Jeans has ever played, but I am interested to see what he does with it. Just not someone that you're sort of used to seeing him work with. So there are going to be a lot of hero player matchups here to sort of keep our eye on in this game, because I don't know, we have questions about where are they, not where are they going to go, but where are they going to sort of move to, how are they going to play in those lanes, and really who can get the advantage in that mid matchup between Timber and Kunkka.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where if Timbersaw can get to a good start, as good a start as Timbersaws can have, it's about whether or not you can force down those tier 1 towers and whether or not you can keep it. Timbersaw is a very throwy hero in that regard, where you have to throw yourself at objectives until you win one. And once you win one,
Mhm.
you're back in a little bit of safety, but until that point, there's definitely a very big opening for NoPing to play around, as good as a lane this might be for Mr. Jeans, that's yet to be seen. Once you actually get into the thick of it, playing versus Kunkka is not very nice. If you don't have those stacks up constantly, Tidebringer is one of the best spells at just shredding through you. And I can only imagine that with a core Timbersaw, like we're seeing, we're going to see a Spirit Vessel be built up on someone. Could even see it on Dark Mago himself.
Right, that is, well, I'm pretty much going to say required at that point going up against that Timber. You don't want to let him sort of get out of control, but speaking of control, that is something that NoPing really do have in abundance with this lineup. The Kunkka, the Tiny, the Lion, the Roar from the Beastmaster as well. So heroes like the Timbersaw and the Mag, who maybe rely upon some mobility with their kits to get their sort of full combo out there, may have a lot of that mobility potentially taken away. So if that is the case, if they aren't able to maneuver around those fights in the way that they want, all of a sudden, you're going to be looking at a lot more pressure being applied to the supports in the Disruptor and the Nyx Assassin to then sort of set up for those team fights so that their core heroes can still get those combos off. So I'm a little concerned about really how well they're going to be able to play and set up those sort of team fight scenarios.
Yep, and that's where for D2 hustlers, the two most important things are team fight and if they can win their lanes. Mr. Jeans and Monster are going to do incredible amounts of damage, but if Devi, Yuma, and Yudomi are not on point with their spell usage, a lot of that damage is just going to go out the window. And NoPing, they already have one save hero. If you don't finish off a lot of these kills, that's where the games get really messy, as well as them, like you said, not being very mobile. It's one of those lineups where if you're in, you kind of have to stick with the death if they bring too many heroes. And that's where, like you said, they have very good tools. You have the toss back, you have the X marks, you have that roar. It's going to be very difficult to actually escape NoPing if they do get their hands on you.
So teamfight execution is going to have to play an absolutely massive role here for D2 Hustlers in this match. And I mean, they've got some heavy hitters, right? They've got that RP, they've got the Static Storm, so if they can find it, it can go well for them, but you've got to hit, you've got to throw everything you've got, and you have to make sure if you knock NoPing down, they have to stay down, because as you said, the ABBA, if he saves anyone, if the rum buff even keeps heroes alive, then you're just maybe not doomed in that fight, but you are very hard-pressed to find your answer as Dark Mago got hit up by the Impale. Yuma, he had already scaled up the skewer, he just wasn't quite able to get there in time. That could have been absolutely huge if they could have picked off the Kunkka there, but the timing was a little bit off, and Panda came in with the Aphotic Shield just to sort of clip the last maybe half second of that Impale stun.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's so many teams are so ready for Dark Mago to run up the mid lane
Mm.
now. Now they're setting up these crazy kills on him. And he's gonna keep doing it. There's no reason for him not to. But it's always hilarious to see. He never even has the ward anymore. It's always someone else placing it for him. So it's not even that he's going to scout. He's just doing this to do this. And Oh, it's so close. Yuma wants it so badly, but
Oh
Dark
man.
Mega's very aware of the game he's in.
It's just a free game ritual at this point. Yeah, as you said, oftentimes doesn't even serve much of a purpose other than trying to fake the opponents out, maybe make them think he's going for the ward, but he is going to be just fine, at least at the start here, as the bounty runes, yeah, no funny business. 2-2 split, nothing major there, but now a little bit interested because Yuma, I mean, he's got skewer level 1, he is the sort of farming hero in this lane, so I don't think it's going to take him long to hit that second level at all, but your duo in this off lane, if they were sort of paying attention to what he had skilled up, then you know there's not going to be a crazy amount of aggression here over the next couple of seconds unless he sort of gets in behind you, and if Yuma's marching directly at you in the first 30 seconds of this game, you know something is up.
Yeah, and you see the spam out already from Yudomi, just trying to kill the boars as fast as you can, and that's exactly what he has to do in this lane. This does get much more difficult for them, and just fighting for denies, but that is the one downside of picking this Disruptor. I like the Disruptor a lot versus the Abaddon in a vacuum. I think it's a very good pick, especially to lead off your draft because you have that slightly awkward picking phase. But at the same time, this isn't your Enchantress, this isn't your CM. You're going to be able to single out those boars, but you're a very big target for your opponents here, and it's going to be one of the better Beastmaster lanes that we've seen before.
And it is good that Yudomi is sort of focusing in taking out that boar, because without the boar, a lot of Oscar's early annoyances sort of get taken away. However, if you're spamming out the Thunderstrike to take down the boar, you are not getting any sort of harass damage directly onto those heroes. So the regen for Oscar and Sladen is largely untouched here. So in that regard, you are sort of trading off. Although now we do see Yudomi trying to get onto Sladen, while Yuma does get the skewer back. They're going to drop down that kinetic field as well, and Oscar, well, I don't know if this is enough to bring him down, but that is certainly going to burn through some of that regen, as it's a nice opening gambit from Yuma and Yudomi. Even if it doesn't get the kill, they are now showing they're a little bit more capable of making this play, and now that the shockwave is there, Yuma can get that anytime Oscar moves too far forward.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see him get many more points in those two spells, just because of how Yuma likes to play his carry mag, but it's something you always have to be concerned with, especially whenever Sladen likes to step away for a few moments. The punish is always going to be there, and Yuma is a very smart player. He always knows when to push that.
Meanwhile, mid, we were sort of wondering about how the Timber would play this. Mr. Jeans, multiple points up into the reactive. So, Timber Chain, honestly not going to do him a crazy amount of good against the Kunkka right now, so he's, for the moment, just ignoring it, but it is really just that sort of tanky game. Build up the armor stacks, push in, get a Whirling Death or two onto Kunkka, and then back off and focus on the creep wave beyond that point.
Oh, look at Dark Mago. He's just waiting. Gets his range CS. He's played so many games of Kunkka. He's so ridiculously solid at it. But yeah, it is very difficult for Mr. Jeans to actually make those killing maneuvers on him. Unfortunately, I think Kunkka at this stage of the game is just so tanky. It's so difficult to actually take him out. What a nifty torrent as well.
All right.
He just pulls so many tricks constantly. The biggest concern, though, is what is Mr. Jeans going to be able to do with his advantage? Because very clearly, Dark Mago has that small camp farm. You're able to farm it out, where Mr. Jeans is always going to be trying to run at him. And that's where you see sort of the dance evolving here. Mr. Jeans trying to deny that small camp as much as possible, while Dark Mago goes for it pretty much every single time. And they're even glyphing just to get aggressive and annoying here, but I don't think any of this matters all too much.
Yeah, Dark Mago's not going to care too much. He did miss maybe one last hit underneath that tower, but it's hard to say that that's really worth the glyph even this early on, but they're trying really anything that they can right now. They know what happens. If they let Dark Mago sort of run away with this one on his Kunkka, there are dozens of examples of just what he does with this sort of early farm. So, can you kill him? Probably not, but if Mr. Jeans can just be a little bit annoying while he finds his own farm, then that has to count for something in this early stage of the game.
Yeah, the most important thing, try to slow down the Kunkka as much as possible, because that's one thing that D2 Hustlers are pretty bad at. Their TP rotations are very weak, because again, they really have only 2 true controllers on their team. Everyone else is just damage, so that's where the rotations can definitely be made a little bit easier there. And that's where the most important thing of all for Mr. Jeans is whether or not he can get those early tier 1s out of the game, because as you can see, Dark Mago just pushes out the wave. Mr. Jeans has to follow him around, and you don't have a lot of damage coming from your spells because you need to be tanky. So it's a little bit awkward for him.
Yeah, but I don't know. At the end of the day, gotta appreciate the effort being put in there by Mr. Jeans to just try and slow this down, but slowing is, I guess, the operative word here, because Dark Mago, he continues to sit at the top of the last hit chart. It's just his lead could be bigger than it is, but he is still going to be enjoying the start to this game so far. But something you were just mentioning a little while back, the TP rotations from D2 Hustlers being a little bit weak. We do see a rotation coming in from the NoPing side
Ooh.
as Panda makes his way bot, dropping the shield onto Angel. Now they'll turn onto Monster, hitting him up with the Avatos combo. Monster gets taken down for first blood, and well, almost really on cue. Panda and Sladen sort of make their way over, and Angel does kind of get a close call there initially with that damage thrown out onto him, but the shield allows him to just fight straight through it, and they do get the first kill of the game, and now Sladen actually sticks around. He's getting in behind, and Devi,
Ooh.
now he may still have a chance to get himself out of here. If Sladen hits that stun, I think they find the kill, but Devi's still not quite out of the woods here. He's got to try and find some way to snake past both of these supports, but he does have the boots. Sladen has his own as well, but he's not quite fast enough to catch up to that Nyx Assassin.
Yeah, and that's where Monster definitely needs to be careful. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a ward behind the tower placed by Devi here. You need to guarantee your Viper's safety because, again, it's so easy for NoPing to bring 1 or 2 heroes and then suddenly you are taken down. And a snowbally of a hero as he is, oh yeah,
That's
man.
not good. He's going to get stunned up. Ghost Ship comes through. That, I don't know if that was needed, but they will get the kill. Yudomi gets taken down. Dark Mago's the one to get it. Devi gets pushed back as he was trying to come in to help there, and again, this is back to what we were just talking about. D2 Hustlers, their ability to rotate is not great. You see Yudomi try to get in there. He's immediately caught out. Meanwhile, Sladen and Panda can just sort of, for the most part, maneuver at will. We're seeing them sort of leaving their lanes pretty frequently, and why not? You've got Oscar in one lane, you've got the Angel Tiny in the other, so they can kind of hold their own in 1v1 matchups while those supports go about their business.
Yeah, and that's where, when do the lanes finally start to break apart, but
Monster's
yeah.
going to get hit up. Stun is in. Avatos combo's there. The Hex comes out as well. They need a little bit more damage,
Good stick, though.
There's Mr. Jeans TPing in, locking down one. Sladen dropped low as well. He is going to lay out for the kill. Probably the smarter choice. He's not getting out of that one, as Mr. Jeans could have just run him down with the chain as he did. So, lay out, get them to kill onto Monster. It's not a good trade, but at least you make it a trade. But that is a fantastic move in from the Timbersaw. First time we've really seen D2 Hustlers get those cores active outside of their own lanes.
Yeah, and I think NoPing expected that damage to come out a little bit sooner, but that's where you're playing versus a Timbersaw. This Abaddon is so thin, and he will go down as well. You have to be really cautious with how you deal with the Timber now, and this is where Mr. Jeans, it's his time to shine. If he can start forcing down this early Tier 1 tower, then it's going to open up the rest of the map, and that's where you're going to finally see some of that jungle taken away from the NoPing side, and it's something that they really need to rely on, especially with Angel going for the big tree throw buildup. It just means that you're not going to have a lot of that early damage coming from your Tiny. It means that it needs to come from the Lion and the Kunkka in this game.
His buildup's going to be a little bit slower. Obviously, once he starts getting those items, he is still going to be dangerous. It's just, we're not going to see him be maybe quite as active as we see a lot of the mid versions of those Tinies be. So, as you said, a lot of that pressure now comes down to the likes of Sladen and Dark Mago to try and make some plays, and they are going to try and make a move here. Two-man smoke up towards that north side jungle. Only problem is, there's really no one here right now. Closest hero would be Yuma, who's kind of farming up in the jungle camps itself, but they are beginning to make that rotation over. The question is, could they actually get this kill that quickly? Yuma is relatively durable for this point in the game, but there's going to be X into the Ghost Ship. That's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for them. The Hex now comes through, the Earth Spike deployed, and Yuma will be taken down. So it does take them a little while. It's not an instant kill by any means, but they do end up getting it, and Yuma, that is honestly a big one. He's just trying to make use of that maxed out Empower right now, and not only do you take him down, Dark Mago's even going to steal away a couple of these camps.
Yeah, it's a really nice play for them to make. You really don't expect them to have enough damage there, but they just barely have enough with how they chained up their disable, so it feels really nice. Even Dark Mago fake backing there, trying to be as annoying as possible. Yudomi's going for a glimpse.
Oh, he's got it.
Got him.
Dark Mago pulled back in. There's the Shockwave into the RP. They will hold the Skewer for now. They've got him in a good position, and yeah, they're going to get that kill. Skewer maybe could have pulled him back under the tier 2, but you've got 4 heroes surrounding him. You may as well just hammer away while you have the chance, and Dark Mako does get taken down, so there's a little bit of revenge for your Magnus. But while that's going down, you see Oscar, he's just doing Beastmaster things. He gets that Dom Helm up. He is going to push for the tower. Look at those TPs. Holy crap, Oscar. Got to get the hell away from that, but he's now trapped up inside of the barrier. The Roar, though, going to buy him a lot of time, and they might actually find a kill there. Devi gets taken down, and Yuma, he already used the RP in the last fight. Finger of Death from Sladen is enough to take down Yodomi, and Yuma has no shockwave. He can't finish the kill. Sladen's going to get away, and, well, a mass of TPs with Yuma sort of coming in from the south, but they really don't get a whole lot there. They still lose the tower, and both of their supports go down.
Yeah, and the real head scratcher there is Monster canceled his TP. He was going to be top, but then he decided that, oh, we're over-rotating. I want to stay in my lane. If you guys get that kill, great. And then they don't get anything. They play a little bit too heavily into the Beastmaster, and Yodomi just got killed basically by the Helmdom creep along with the Devi Llama. So that's a really unfortunate circumstance. But yeah, I'm really surprised that we didn't see a move from Mr. Jeans specifically. I think Monster trying to get involved is great, but they need the Timbersaw there, not the Viper, and they definitely get punished for that. That was a hard punish.
Yeah, just... I don't know. I mean, I think if Monster finishes that TP, that fight can go so much better for them. But now, with Monster remaining bot, they do have a chance to go into Dark Mako. They get the glimpse. They'll miss with the stun, but they should still be able to find this one. That Ghost Ship, though, is coming through. And Devi will be taken down. Okay, no, he won't. He's still alive for now. Panda's going to try to rotate in, but at this point, realizing his teammates are already dead, there's nothing more he can do. So he backs off, but now Mr. Jeans, he wants into the fight. He's got a DD rune here. He's going to try and make a move, but on the backline, Angel goes in for the kill onto Yodomi, not going to be able to get it, and now he's the one stuck in the middle of this. Panda's going to try to heal him up. There is no shield, though, as he already used it, so Angel will just look for the TP. And, well, unfortunately, the only stun that they had already been used, so Angel's at least going to be able to pull out, but that is not good for NoPing. They lose two, and their tower is under attack here as well, as Mr. Jeans honestly can just sit here and siege it up with the max out reactive.
Yeah, and unfortunately Sladen was just a little bit too far forward, as well as that initial kill giving the level 6 over to the Disruptor, but they're just keep making these plays. Now they're all in mid, but again, they're going into the Beastmaster, and they're just going to get killed. Yeah.
Just gets picked off there. He had the RP, but he wasn't in a great spot to get really more than maybe one or two heroes at the most, so he's just got to sort of hold that while his tower will now fall. Meanwhile, in the jungle, Devi, hit up by the X, pulled back into the Tidebringer, as Dark Mako will find that kill, and NoPing, a bit of a stumble down bot there, yeah, as they did lose a couple, but they respond so quickly and pretty decisively as well. Big kills there in the mid and east side areas, and Oscar just continues to push down towers, really.
Yeah, and that's the big drawback of NoPing's lineup, is that they have to always come to their Beastmaster. The entire reason the bottom plate goes so awry is Oscar doesn't want to dislodge himself from the map. You want to play with your summons. If a Beastmaster has to TP to a lane, he's going to, at max, have one boar and not a Helmdom creep. You always want to walk to these engagements, and instead, D2 Hustlers walk into the Beastmaster. I think Yuma TPing mid was, again, just not the place that he needed to be. Send the Timbersaw in front of you. Make him be the one to frontline for a lot of these towers, and then I think the defenses would be way more successful. But it does feel like they're definitely playing into NoPing a little too much here, as well as having the Spirit Vessel picked up now. So there's a huge target on Mr. June's head right now.
That Spirit Vessel makes life a bit more difficult for the Timber, which is part of the reason why I think we've seen Mr. Jeans kind of shy away from a lot of the early aggression, the early rotations that had been working for him. He's still 3-0-2, so it's not like anyone's been able to pick him off, but earlier on we saw him sort of rotate bot for a couple of kills, and now he's being a bit more farming focused as Sladen. He's going to get jumped in on. He does get the nice stun down onto 2, but they want Dark Mako instead. They're going to try to blow him up, but they just don't have the damage right now. The shield comes through. The Glimpse, though, does pull him back in, so he may still be taken down, but that Illusion Rune is going to be popped. That buys a little bit of time. He's still dropping. Aphotic Shield comes out again, but Dark Mako will fall. He did get out that Ghost Ship, but it's really not going to connect on anybody, and at this point, this fight is just way too broken up. You see Angel making his escape down to the south, and this is just going to be an absolute massacre. D2 Hustlers with, well, what didn't look like the perfect fight at the start, but it's really starting to go their way, especially if they can get Panda here, and they've got it. One last hit from Yuma will get the job done, so 4 kills going their way. Sladen did respawn, but he died right at the start of that fight, and little to nothing given up on their side.
Yeah, and that's where Angel and Oscar, they're set up, they're pushing into that tier 2 tower top, but the rest of their team is fighting around the hill, a hill that is incredibly important for actually defending that push. But you end up in a 3v5 situation where D2 Hustlers bring absolutely everyone, and all of the heroes on NoPing do not do a fantastic job of playing versus multiple targets. They're very single damage oriented, and unless Angel wants to actually get involved in the fights, something that I don't think is going to happen until he has the full Silver Edge completed, you're taking a 4v5 where you're missing two of your members, and it feels really disjointed from NoPing, but also really well done from D2 Hustlers, especially playing around this glimpse. It's something some teams don't necessarily push whenever they get to play with this disruptor, but every single time they force NoPing to run away from them, they show 5 heroes, and then they find that glimpse with that little bit of vision. It's just a kill every single time.
Mm-hmm. It's just so incredibly disruptive to anything that your opponents are trying to put together, even in that situation where NoPing are trying to make an orderly retreat. You pull one hero back, and now you have to decide, do we double back to defend him and push into the fight that we sort of wanted to run from in the first place, or do we leave that hero to die? And in that instance, it was kind of the worst of both possible scenarios, because their hero gets picked off and largely isolated, and they still didn't really get the fight. But now Monster's in a little bit of trouble here. He has been hit up by that Spirit Vessel. They get the Ghost Ship down onto him. The Hex is going to keep Devi out of the fight for a few seconds, but the reinforcements are coming, and Monster is still not dead. He's going to be able to walk away. Dark Mago, meanwhile, gets glimpsed back into that engagement, and well, they do finally get Monster, but it is going to cost them. Dark Mago down, and now Panda's in trouble as well. But with Angel here and Oscar coming in, maybe they can take this, but there's the RP coming out from Yuma. Panda locked down. Oscar will fall. And as quickly as Angel joins the fight, he's now got to leave it. But Yodomi, look at that wraparound play. He gets around behind the Tiny, so he's now trapped in the fight. Panda has got to buy back to try and get over here and defend his buddies. But this is not looking fantastic. Angel's still sitting on a decent amount of health. Sladen, though, a bit of a different story, as he does get taken down by Mr. Jeans. It's a double for the Timber. Panda does arrive to get Angel out of there, but that fight gets very messy for NoPing once again, as they lose, really, 4 heroes and have to use Panda's buyback, and once again, they don't get much. They killed off Devi. They did get Monster eventually, but that is not going to be worthwhile.
Yeah, and the only reason they get Monster is because Angel stops his farming pattern. He walks over to try and help his allies, and I think right now, Dark Mago and Oscar have to be so much more careful with their positioning. They're getting caught out way too much by this Disruptor, and Yodomi is just doing exactly what he needs to do. This is also where NoPing have so much vision in this area, and they're still losing the fight so convincingly. It's a really hard call to make. It's a big advantage of having this Timber Saw, where you have someone to go in, give you all the vision you could possibly want, and then you feel the Static Storm versus the Abaddon. Panda Boo was right next to his teammate, doing exactly what he needed to do, but was unable to help in any capacity. I think that's where NoPing, they might adopt that more split push oriented playstyle, where you try to finish off some of these big items. You need some of those BKBs, otherwise the fights are going to be just as easy for D2 Hustlers to take. Whereas on their side, they've got a blink on Yuma. If they want to, they could wait for his BKB or decide to, once he has RP, just smoke up again.
In the meantime, Yuma is going to enjoy the stacked camps there, and that is something that D2 Hustlers are going to be continuously trying to set up. Yuma needs farm, the Timbersaw can take the stacks, even Monster is going to be able to sort of help out there and take some of that himself, so they will have that advantage. They're still not quite caught up to the Tiny on the other side, so Angel has at least been able to maintain that steady rate, but this is a position 1 Tiny. He needs to be at this point in his net worth just to really be in a position to fight. You see Echo Saber Silver Edge finished off, but now the BKB is being queued up, so his timing on that BKB is going to be maybe a little bit behind some of his counterparts, as you see Yuma just now finishing off his, but this could be the potential equalizer. NoPing will push into the Roche Pit, and right now, D2 Hustlers, they're in a position to maybe contest it, but they would have to go right now. The scan, though, is going to reveal that this is happening, and they will give it a go, but you see Panda sort of acting as that middleman here, standing in an intercept position, and they are going to be able to get it. The Aegis goes into Angel's hands. Now the fight will break out. Panda's able to absorb that first round, and we'll see if they go in again. Angel's wandering into vision, though, but he still just goes directly onto the Timber, and with that Silver Edge, this is not looking great for Mr. Jeans. He's going to have to try and fall back. Static Storm, though, does get thrown down. Yuma, meanwhile, trying to push in. The RP will be deployed onto Oscar, and they are going to be able to take him down with that Skewer. So they finished off 2. They didn't get in onto the Tiny, though, who's still holding onto that Aegis, but now they've got the Glimpse. Dark Mago pulled back in. He's trapped up inside of that kinetic field, but they really don't have anyone on him who can do much damage right now. Monster tries to go forward. Instead, it's Angel there to sort of ambush him. They will be able to find that kill, but it's going to come at a cost. They lose Panda. Dark Mago's just getting completely isolated over to the side here. Angel's able to win a 1v1 against Yuma, but this is the thing about the Tiny. He is so strong onto those singular targets, but, well, he can only really go for one at a time in that scenario. He does take down the heroes that he goes for, but they're going to need more, and that's not going to help. He gets stunned up and glimpsed back. Slayton is still kind of charging here, but without the Tiny to back him up, there's not a whole lot left to do.
Yeah, they kited a little bit too much there on the D2 Hustlers side. They waited out Yuma's BKB, and until he's gotten a little bit more farm, he's a very big target for this Tiny to beat into, as well as with his Aegis. Angel's just perfectly fine. He's okay playing without his BKB for now, and he just gets to do whatever he wants. That was such a sick battle for the vision from Yodomi there. There were so many sentries getting slinged out, so they were always very aware of where the Tiny was, but the problem is there's not much to do to help your teammates at that point. It's just not something your lineup's capable of. As soon as somebody like Yuma is caught on the low ground without a BKB, you really just have to sit there and watch him die. You can't really glimpse anyone away at this stage of the game. It just feels like that save is not available to them. And now with the shard, Angel is going to start playing that monster Tiny where you suddenly are able to kill tier 2 towers, tier 3 towers in 6 or 7 hits, and that's where the game gets much more difficult for Hustlers going forward.
And Tiny is starting to hit that first sort of major power spike, so takes him 20, 21 minutes, but they are there. The question is, can the rest of the core trio now sort of step it up in terms of their durability? You saw Dark Mago just get slowly but surely whittled away at. The BKB coming up for him relatively soon could potentially fix that. Meanwhile, for Oscar, really looking
Triple
in the exact
BKB.
exact same direction. It's BKBs all around here. So, I mean, it's a simple solution, but it's one that presumably is going to be quite a bit more effective in terms of keeping them safe from a lot of the lockdown on the opponent's side. But for now, a lot of those BKBs have not been finished off, and D2 Hustlers want to go on the offensive. They are smoking up here. And that Hawk should have spotted out the ward being put down, so they know this is coming. Panda is going to be the one to pop it, and, well, yeah, he needed to manually activate that as he was standing inside of that nether toxin, so Panda will be taken down, but you sacrifice him to break up a 4-man smoke gank, and your cores continue to farm in the meantime. So overall, I think they're going to be relatively okay with that. It's just that he's going to be down for a little while, and while he is respawning, we see NoPing starting to maybe pull back onto their own side.
Yeah, as soon as they get that kill, they are able to fill this space, but you also see how they stagger it just a little bit because they have to respect the vision. They have to respect the Hawks. I think the easiest play for them to make is as soon as you see the Kunkka TPing top, it does make it much easier to hunt for these kills like Slayton. Oh. Really good pick.
TP canceled, quick kill from Mr. Jeans, and, well, now, do we see anyone come over to defend the tower? No, because they're going after Yuma instead. That is a big opportunity for them, and they find it. Oscar, quick on the trigger there with the roar. Angel's there for the follow-up damage, and now without Yuma, that push in the middle lane is going to kind of dissolve on D2 Hustler's part. Dark Mago, though, coming in, just going to throw down the X into the Torrent, but that's a nice stun from Divide connecting onto 2, and I don't know if they really want to go any further than that. So Monster was in a little bit of danger there, but his teammate's able to sort of pull him out of the fire, and D2 Hustlers will fall back and wait for Yuma to respawn now before they really go for much of anything, although they're grouping up like they want to try again, but as far as I'm aware, nobody actually has a smoke in this group.
I don't believe so. I think, if anything, they would wait for Yuma to maybe hand-deliver it, but that's where the Hawks are starting to become a real pest, especially for Yuma, who's been trying to find some of these blink initiations and is not really able to get on top of his targets. They're trying to do another play here, but even though they have this really important vision, it does feel very simple for NoPing to just walk away. We don't even see the shard up on Oscar yet because he is rushing this BKB. I'm just really scared about this BKB timing on everyone. Yeah,
got the glimpse into the Static Storm. This Kunkka taking a lot of damage. Panda's able to help him with the shield, but it's just not enough without that BKB. Kunkka can't survive. Dark Mago gets taken down, and now the Aegis has just expired on the Tiny. So timing-wise, this may be D2 Hustler's real window to push in. The Kunkka's dead for 40, and Angel doesn't have a second life available. Good news, though, the Kunkka did buy out that BKB once he died, and Angel is just about done with his. So those BKBs are going to be on their way, but, well, D2 Hustler is sort of striking while the iron was hot. They get in before the BKBs are finished off, and that's a big kill for them. That's going to create a little bit of extra space for them to farm, but right now, Well, you see Devi, he's pushing his way forward. They are going to try to go on to Panda here. The Abba is not in a great position. His ult is still down for about 12 more seconds, and he's trapped up. They may just honestly have to sacrifice him. Angel's thinking about going back in, but there's too many heroes.
Yeah. And in this long term, it really doesn't matter that much. Your Abaddon's dead for 30 seconds. He gave 200 gold. Not really the biggest deal in the world, but that's where D2 Hustlers do need to be even more scared. Yuma hasn't been getting the biggest RPs. He's really been more focused on finding those single targets and then making sure his allies can finish off a lot of these kills. But now that triple BKB is done on the NoPing side, they're getting aggressive, and they're getting incredibly aggressive here. And that's where you have to be so careful, especially in your lapses of vision. As Yuma,
There's the Hex.
again,
Static Storm does get thrown down defensively, though, but Yuma's still taking the damage. There's that BKB out from Angel, and Yuma will be taken down. Now Yudomi's going to have to try and run. Dark Mago's looking for the X onto anybody that he can find, but Oscar finds the target first. Roar down onto Devi Llama. They'll hit him up with the damage and the stun follow-up from Sladen. That is going to be a second kill. Two big ones there for NoPing, and yeah, just as you said, the second those triple BKB play is ready, they push in, they find the fight, they take the tower, and they are eyeballing that sort of high ground push right now. Neither of those two dead heroes have buyback, so this could get dangerous. And tier 3 tower is taking a lot of damage. Now the X is down onto the Timbersaw. They hex him up. They get the Finger of Death there as well. Good Force Staff, though, helping to keep Mr. Jean sort of out of that fight, but he still has to fall back, which means NoPing are going to continue pushing their way on to the racks here. They get the melee. Angel can honestly just take a couple of swipes to grab the range, and they will be backing themselves out now. And at this point, can Yudomi find a glimpse? He is going to look for it, but they need the vision. They do have Sladen, well, in attack range, and they will bring him down. Monster's able to find the kill. Now the glimpse catches Dark Mago, but there's not a lot of follow-up right now. And there's going to be the BKB. Dark Mago wants to turn around, not going to be able to catch up to Yudomi, but the Timbersaw is the one who's actually pretty far out of the base, trying to lead this charge, but it doesn't look like much of a charge. Now Yuma is coming in, so maybe they can find some sort of play here on to that Kunkka, but Dark Mago is just booking it back onto his own side. And they catch him. Devi is looking for that sort of angle to really reach onto him, and they do get it with the Yule Scepter. They just need the damage. Can they do it? Dark Mago is going to try and hold the line. Okay, there's the RP from Yuma. Wasn't sure they were going to pop that, but he is not willing to let that kill go. Speaking of kills, though, Angel trying to track down Monster in the east side jungle, but if he's not fast enough, the reinforcements are coming. There may not be an RP, but this is still 2 cores against the Tiny. He is just going to pop the BKB, though, and look for the TP out, and without the RP, they have no way to cancel that, so they will allow him to go. Oscar, meanwhile, using the opportunity to split push out the lanes, but now Mr. Jeans is looking for him. We'll see if Oscar can get away. Here's a TP at the ready, so honestly, he could just try to leave, but he's actually pushing forward. He's going to pop the BKB now and look for the TP out. And that move, I mean, it gets a little bit of extra damage onto the tower, so maximum efficiency for Oscar before he makes his escape.
Yeah, and there's a lot to talk about there, but that is so important for Yudomi in both of those engagement. His Force Staff was incredibly important. Otherwise, you lose Mr. Jeans immediately. You don't get to reset with the stacks, and you don't get to defend your high ground. Unfortunately, they didn't really get to defend their high ground. That's your safe lane Tiny in momentum right there. You get the racks, you lose 2 heroes, they're 30 seconds on deck, and unless you want to buy back, you're going to lose your buildings. And it's very fortunate that they get the kill on Dark Mago. He had already used his TP, so he didn't have the same tools that both Angel and Oscar were able to use. But that is the big threat, and big clash.
Smoke's coming together right in that middle lane. Yuma's going to pop his BKB, but there's still no RP for 45. He's going to just try and do it with the damage, and they do take down Sladen, but now they've got the X onto Mr. Jeans. They're going to try and pull him back in. They need more damage, though, but they can't get it. Mr. Jeans able to Timber Chain away. They're still chasing. Devi's going to get caught, though, on the back line. But he's really providing a distraction. Look at this play, just breaking this up. Yuma's now able to get in with the skewer, but Angel pops the BKB and goes to work. Dishing out the right-click damage. Yuma will be taken down. Devi, meanwhile, falls and immediately buys back. Yudomi, though, is going to be taken down as well. And his buyback is currently unavailable, so there is not going to be a disruptor in for round 2 as Angel continues to push forward. That's a lot of damage that he takes from Mr. Jeans, but the Aphotic Shield is going to be deployed onto him almost immediately, and Mr. Jeans is the one who has to fall back. Timber chaining into the base, but now they've caught Devi. Second life could be in danger here as he is going to avoid the X with that Euls, but that keeps him in the exact same spot for Angel to just swipe at him, and they will take him down, and now all of a sudden, D2 Hustlers feels like they've used pretty much all of their resources. There are no buybacks available, and those cooldowns, or death timers rather, are looking a little bit long to mount any sort of defense.
Yeah, and that's brutal from NoPing. They smoke up knowing that there's no RP. They didn't pop their BKBs on any cores for such a long time. They sat in the static storm not caring because they know that the follow-up isn't coming. They get to pop their BKBs 20 seconds after the fight's already started, and this is why Safe Line Tiny, here we go, you're Megas, regardless of this team fight.
Yeah, it's a big team fight if D2 Hustlers want to keep this game going, but it doesn't protect the racks. They will be dealing with Megas. Angel, meanwhile, directly onto the backline, able to take down Yudomi. Mr. Jeans, he kills Sladen, but now he's in a bit of an awkward spot. There are 4 heroes all around him. Monster's doing everything in his power to fire from that backline, but now with the Ghost Ship coming in, they've just got that Timber locked down. Mr. Jeans will fall. And Yuma's now trying to come in. The RP is at the ready, but with Monster dead, he has no backup, and that's going to be the GG called. RP does come in at the end. He will skewer them back into the fountain, but it's not going to matter.
Look, Angel even pre-bought up the Ghost Scepter. Man.
So, NoPing looking good there in game number 1. They honestly just kind of bide their time. They wait it out. They know that their timing is coming once that triple BKB comes into play, and once they hit the mark, and D2 Hustlers really couldn't do much about it.
Yeah, and I think the real aspect of D2 Hustler's lineup that started to lag behind is Yuma. Yuma was not nearly as farmed as I think I'm used to seeing him on this Magnus. I think he was really falling behind in items. Usually at this stage of the game, he has either the Orchid into the Bloodthorn that he loves so much, or he has a full Silver Edge completed. But instead, you see him have to go for this casual plate mail buildup at the end of the game, and it just feels like too much was forced out of them to get what they could get, especially at the end there where they have this beautiful team fight. Yudomi has a static storm on 4 heroes, and NoPing say, okay, we're going to tank it. We're going to throw a boat in there, and then we're going to sit in it. Then we're going to use our BKBs to actually kill you guys, because the only way you get to peel us off of you is if we get Carapace, we get chained up by this Nyx assassin. So I think D2 Hustlers really just couldn't deal with that timing. If NoPing were able to farm up those BKBs, they were going to be able to take those convincing team fights. And I think in those early stages, D2 Hustlers just didn't have enough going for them. And I think at the end of the game there, you really saw it kind of bite them, where the Timber Stop is going to get broken. He's playing versus a natural Silver Edge character, the only Silver Edge carrier in the game, and it just feels so seamless for Angel to actually make this rotation. This was also the cleanest safe lane tiny game we've seen thus far, and it felt incredibly strong. Pair it with the Beastmaster, and we saw how fast those buildings were going down with only 1 or 2 picks. That's all it took.
It just felt like NoPing did such a fantastic job. They were initially sort of thinking to themselves, you know, the Timber Saw is hitting us pretty hard. Yuma on the Magnus may be a problem. They identify what they need in that triple BKB to get themselves back going, and the item timings work out perfectly. Oscar does everything you want him to do and need him to do on that offlane Beastmaster, and it all just kind of falls into place, and unfortunately D2 Hustlers couldn't make that same adjustment mid-game that their opponents did.
Yeah, I think game 2, D2 Hustlers had an interesting draft. Get Mr. Jeans on his Storm, get him on his Lash, get him on one of the heroes he's been doing so well in the entire tournament. Tried to get him to start a lot of these fights. As cool as a pick that I think it was, I think NoPing very simply out-rotated you in this one. I think just go next.
Yeah, go next. Get yourself on something more comfortable, perhaps. So we'll see what the game 2 adjustment is for D2 Hustlers, but they need to try and change up something here, because game 1 doesn't quite go their way. Didn't get blown out by any means, but once the momentum shifted, it was hard to really do anything about it. So we'll see if D2 Hustlers can make the changes they need to fight back into this series, or if it's going to be NoPing continuing their recent run of success and clearing out the 2-0 sweep to move their way into the upper bracket final. So we're going to be having game 2 coming up in just about 5 to 10 minutes. Until then, we'll step away for a moment and see you for that game 2 draft. So stick around.